how you're gonna be the whole time?
Well, I'm driving right now to get
Yeah.
my one son from his team dinner because my husband's going to get my other son from practice.
Right.
So yeah,
All right.
big
Just
things are
be
crazy.
careful. Just be
He can
careful.
listen in about once I pick him up. He can listen to the open space committee meeting too. He'll basically just put his music on and
Yeah,
zone
yeah.
out.
Okay. All right, so we have a quorum. I just said, Nicole, that neither Lauren nor Maureen can make it tonight. Maureen had said she knew she wasn't going to be able to, and Lauren just called it, but texted me and said that her husband is sick, so he can't take care of her son. So it's just the three of us. So let's call the meeting to order. It's 7:05. And we have a quorum. And let's approval of the meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll put forward the motion.
All right. Nicole, can you second?
Second.
All right. And I approve. I wrote them, so, all right, the minutes are approved. Okay, any public comment on anything that is not otherwise on the agenda? We have Melissa and Pat.
No.
Nope, okay. All
No.
right. All right. So let me just give you what's going on Wyman Meadow. The last time, I don't know if it was the last meeting that Owen was on, or it might have been the one before, but anyway, I know I had reported to you that the Conservation Commission had approved the Wyman Meadow plan to put the two water crossings, the bog boards and then the span bridge. And there, Owen had given us a timeline and they were hoping to start work the end of this month. Of course, they haven't. Everything's been delayed. I mean, there's, partially because of the rain, they have other projects that they're working on. So now he's anticipating that'll be sometime in October. And I don't remember if we mentioned this or not, but the Wildlands Trust staff has already constructed the bog boards. And so they'll just be, they did that on site. They have some kind of a training program, a volunteer program. And so they've donated the materials and the labor for that. And those just have to be trucked over and put in wherever they go. The bridge actually has to be built on site. And again, they will use their own labor because they have people that are really experienced at that, have done it lots of times. But they have asked for the town to pay for some of the expenses for the materials for the bridge. And it comes to about $600 or so, maybe a little bit less. And I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but I talked with Bob Ruley about it I guess last month before our August meeting. And he said he didn't think that would be a problem, that there ought to be some way that the town can pay for it. I mean, I didn't want to have to apply for community preservation funds or some other grant for such a small amount of money. So I've forwarded to him the budget that Warren sent me this week, showing the $300, how it breaks down, the $300. And I've asked Bob to tell me what we need to do to get that processed. I figure there's got to be some bureaucracy involved, and what will it be? I don't know. And in the meantime, Owen says Wildlands Trust does not need to have it paid for up front, so we can do it on a reimbursement basis. So that if we don't get the money situation figured out within the town right away, he'll be able to go ahead with the construction. So and then it would be the trail clearing that he will be looking for town volunteers for. They are better off doing the construction with their own experienced staff and volunteers. And then, but the clearing will require more bodies and without any particular expertise, just slash, I guess, and cut and slash. So that will be the next step, is once he has a schedule for that, yeah, we'll have to probably do a little, recruiting for volunteers to help with that. And one of that guy that we met at the site visit, who lives right in the neighborhood there, will be an obvious choice, and perhaps some of the other parks volunteers. And it'd be nice if we could get more people in the neighborhood recruited too. So anyway, that will happen later, but just it looks like it's going to be October now before they get to construction. And I hope it doesn't get delayed any further, because who knows, crazy weather, it may start snowing in November or something, who knows? So,
Eileen, I was
Yeah.
gonna mention that we have, there is that nonprofit in town that has been doing a lot of cleanup. They've been in quite a few meetings. I can't remember the
right,
gentleman's
right.
name.
Yeah.
Might
The
be a
vet-
good
the
person to
veterans group,
contact.
right? The veterans group.
Yes.
Yeah, do you
Yep.
know what their name is?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll take a look. I've met him at at a couple of the meetings. Seems like a really nice guy, and they're very dedicated to
Yeah,
keeping the cleaning up Bridgewater and keeping it in good shape.
that's a good idea. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, let's keep track of that. And when we get to this the next time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on that? No, okay. Nicole, can you give a tree committee report?
Sure. I think one thing that it could be of interest to our group is that we frequently are trying to, as a committee, the tree committee, trying to identify locations to plant trees. So through some of the mitigation funds from different projects that are going through the planning board, as well as just some folks that reach out, like for example, from the downtown improvement committee and so on. There tend to be people reaching out, asking for places to plant trees, and we're looking for places to plant trees. So, we really can only plant trees as a tree committee on town-owned lands. We're going to really focus on the streets and the streetscapes in downtown, and different open spaces, which could include the schools, obviously, and any other town-owned properties. But as a committee, if we had any recommendations in any of the open spaces that we are aware of, we could certainly bring it up, and I'd be happy to bring it forward to the tree committee.
Okay,
I mean,
I have one, and you're already familiar with the spot, the playground, the Marathon Park. I know
yes,
you already planted 2 trees there.
we planted two, and it could certainly use more. So that's a great suggestion,
Right.
because each committee member will go forward next time and make some recommendations.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to add that.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been over there with a kid in the summer, but it's brutal. I mean, there is
Yes.
no shade there. And there's that one little shelter that like a canopy that they built, and everybody's just crowded under there, and it's just unpleasant. It's very warm.
Yeah.
Too sunny. So yeah, I think that, it would probably be good to have somebody who can figure out the placement of it too, so that it's providing some shade at different times of day, and
That's a great spot. Also, I was thinking of in the same park, that parking lot is just one giant wide open expanse.
mhm.
And then it has, the area where the vehicles can pull in. Maybe we could put like a couple in the parking area to kind of separate the
Break
two
that up,
sections
yeah,
potentially.
yeah.
That's a
Could
good
add
point.
even more camping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good point. Yep.
Yeah, I know they seem to do a lot of cutback mowing around the fields, the softball fields. I assume they don't want any trees around there. They keep cutting further and further around the
Yeah.
perimeters of it. I'm not sure why, but I'm not sure.
And I know a lot of the open space that we discuss are typically the more naturalized areas that already have trees.
Yeah,
But certainly, I mean, I personally am, one of my recommendations that I'm gonna bring forward is to, recommend the, one of the schools, because one of, one thing that we're going to do next year is to try to amp up, our, I guess, celebration of Arbor Day and include
Uh-huh.
more educational opportunities with the schools maybe, but also with the community. So if it's something that the open spaces committee is interested in sort of joining forces with, we can definitely keep everyone involved. And, I think there's a lot of overlap and synergies. So, that would also
Yeah.
potentially be something we could all do.
Yeah.
Another place that I think of is the cemetery right on
Oh, yeah.
that thing. The trees in there are so pathetic. I mean, that's such a historic cemetery, and it's right at the, right where everybody approaches the town, and but so many of them are half dead. I mean, there needs to be a lot of cutting of the dead ones, but there's also like a few, I think maybe some small cherry trees or something that are just, in very, very poor shape. But it seems like it'd be nice to be replacing some of those as well.
Which cemetery are you, the one across from?
The really old one, right near BSU, near the unit, between the Unitarian Church, right across from the abandoned gas station.
Oh,
Behind CVS, across the parking lot.
Yep. Oh,
Is-
interesting. And
Is that town property?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
And the other cemetery that I read about is Mount Prospect.
yes,
I love to walk there, and there's so many beautiful trees, but I just wonder, is there a plan to replace them? Because a lot of them are quite old. And somebody,
Yep.
100 years ago or 50 or however, just had the foresight to plant that beautiful row of, I think they're Norfolk pines. And every time I look at those, I think, well, is anybody planning on doing anything like that now? Because trees, they have to take a couple down there in the storms and stuff, and some of them, the oaks don't look in too good shape. But anyway, it would be a good idea, I think, to maybe just check out that area and see if there's any place to replace some of the trees or dead trees. Or I mean, we obviously can't, the town obviously, this tree committee isn't in the business of trying to replace old stuff, but I guess
well, yeah, technically, they, if a tree has to come down for safety reasons and so on, that is technically part of the whole tree maintenance plan. So they
Okay.
certainly, obviously, we're trying to increase the tree canopy, but it's just the matter of the way it is that some trees, have to come down
right, yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
So that, this is the point that we need. We're just like working against not only Mother Nature, but we're also just working against, developers and everything else. So,
Right.
we're always in the negative, and we're trying to start to tick the
Yeah.
needle towards the positive. So, okay, well, if anyone has any other ideas, I'm happy to pass those along.
All right, I have another idea.
Yeah.
So every time I go by that giant warehouse on Route 18, I get all worked up too, not just because of the acres that are gone, but the fact that, they put up this, it looks like a row of about 8 trees. They could have put, instead of grouping some trees, instead of actually doing some kind of, little cluster of greenery, it's just a row of 8 trees to replace, 5 acres, 10 acres? It just blows my mind when I see that. I'd almost rather see nothing than to see what they consider a replacement. And it's just, why do they get away with that? I mean, I know that their planning board has requirements for some sort of landscaping. Why is it so minimal? Anyway, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
agree.
Go
I
ahead, Nicole.
completely agree. Yeah, the tree committee has no oversight over that. However, the town is currently working on a revised tree ordinance.
right,
And so I think any comment we can provide to that tree ordinance, unfortunately, right now, it really is only about protecting public
yeah,
trees in the public right of way. So, other than to continue to kind of lobby to, the planning board and, potentially try to influence changes to the planning board rules and regulations or the subdivision rules and regulations, unfortunately, there's very little there.
there, yeah. Yeah, and
We're
I
lucky
have
that
no
some of
idea
I
what the
know.
rules are, or if there are rules. I mean, I guess there's some requirement that for a subdivision, there be a tree on every lot along the street or something.
Yeah, that's a shame. It just really allows, I mean, I am a huge, what I've been trying to advocate for specifically is some sort of restrictions on clear cutting and
Right, yeah,
also the removal of large diameter, heritage trees.
mhm,
That if those, the first step would be to, put limitations on those, because
right,
obviously if somebody is a private landowner, within their zoning rights, they can build a house or they can build their commercial property and there's certain number of spaces. But I've really looked into it. There is no way that they should be clearing 80 to 90% of their lot. That makes
right,
life easy for them because they can clear cut and just regrade and just, build very simply. We just have very few protection rules for that. Fortunately, the planning board members have a little bit of leeway to kind of request um, mitigation funds if they feel that
yes,
the
right,
developer is not maintaining, but obviously like some of these trees and some of these clear cut forests are priceless,
yeah,
but at least they got, $20,000 for clearing however many acres.
right.
Yeah, I'll keep
Pat, Pat, you
working
had
on,
your hand up.
I have no power, but I'll keep working to try to influence those
Yeah,
that are in power.
Pat, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to say the current regulations, I think, require a tree every 30 feet on one of those.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
By
Yeah,
their,
I don't know if there's similar regulations for, when you put up a 5-acre warehouse or what, I don't know, but it just seemed to me that maybe one of the roles for the tree committee, Nicole, even though I know you have enough to do, is, or the committee does, is to be an advocate just for more trees within the planning board process. I mean, given what their authority is at this point, they can obviously require some landscaping, at least they always do. And so how to encourage the planning board to encourage the developers to be a little more creative than what we see down on Route 18, which is just pathetic. In my humble opinion.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah,
It's sad. I mean, I think we have an opportunity with what this may be later in the agenda with what was brought up locally. Our letter to the planning board triggered one of the members to want to understand more about it and have the,
yes,
our committee, I guess, meet with some of the staff members. So
yeah,
that's progress.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
okay, so, given that we're talking about that, I think let's move down to, item
Yeah.
E, looking at hotel proposals. This is sort of a nice segue into that. Because, yeah, Pat, Melissa, and I were all on that, planning board call last night, the planning board Zoom meeting. And, I mean, there were lots of issues, of course, but one of the positive things that came out of it was as I told you, I sent Nicole an email this morning, and just to tell her how pleased I was that she wrote that letter on our behalf to the planning board about the Lake Nip project, and that Ray Ajemian read, I mean, I read from it. I testified with it in hand at the August or whatever it was, the July hearing. And then I think Ray heard it and he suggested yesterday, he read from it and said, you know, why can't we consider some of these things? And it's Greg Tansey is the city engineer, I guess, who was speaking to this. He's doing the water review, water issues, wastewater, and I don't know, is it just wastewater or is it water supply too? I don't know, but at any rate, he hadn't completed his review of what they've submitted yet, which only came in a week ago, I guess. But I think, yeah, we have an opportunity, and Ray was suggesting that somebody in the town staff look at those suggestions that you made, Nicole. So I emailed Nicole this morning and told her about this and suggested that we try to have a meeting with Greg and Bob Ruley and Shane O'Brien and talk to them about how we go about advancing some of these ideas that Nicole brought forward and why, you know, what's the potential for them to encourage that or require it. And I think, you know, I hope we have a little bit of a toehold on that issue. So we'll see. But anyway, I wanted a motion for this committee to contact town staff and try to have a meeting to discuss the environmentally, what are the state of the art, give me the word, Nicole, eco-friendly or
Yeah, the more sustainable stormwater
Yeah,
approaches
yeah,
for
yeah.
the project at the NIP, the
Yeah.
hotel.
Yeah. So someone want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
All right. I'll second.
Oh.
All right. All right, well, I will contact them tomorrow then, Nicole, and I'll copy you and see what we can get going.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think a workshop where we can kind of just sit around the plans. You know, I'm happy to try to bring some examples,
Yes,
including local examples of, you know, projects that have done a good job of that.
yeah,
You know, I guess just the gist of it is that what I've observed is that you know, they're building a very large building and that requires a lot of parking, and it's a sprawling footprint. So as part of their, you know, their economic evaluations, you know, they do say that they looked at compressing the footprint of the building and going higher. That had financial implications. They said they looked at structural parking so that they could have like a small parking garage. You know, they say that that has substantial financial implications as well. Well, the next step is to start looking at low impact stormwater approaches that definitely won't have the same dollar value as those other, you know, items that they looked at.
yeah,
But basically, the more impervious area they build, the more stormwater management they need. So their approach is to continue to cut and cut and cut and cut more trees so that they can have this sprawling development. And then, you know, oh, well, we need to cut over another acre more trees to manage the stormwater from those impervious. That is completely counterintuitive to anything, you know, environmentally sensitive that one would do.
yeah,
So if we're stuck with the footprint that they have, there's ways that we can work around that. There's strategies that we can manage stormwater right on the top of that roof or right underneath that parking lot that don't require extra land and extra clear cutting. So I want to show them examples of permeable pavement, of porous pavement, show them examples of green roofs, show them ways that even within the islands, the parking islands, like in the lot, that they could convert those to bioretention. So compressing, you know, they're already going to have to clear to do this development. It will be so sad if they clear another acre to manage stormwater when they can find, you know, ways to use green infrastructure and other approaches.
yeah.
So that was kind of the gist of the letter, as well as like,
Yes,
you
yeah,
know, if they're gonna have more of a detention pond kind of thing that they end up needing, you know, this is such an ecologically sensitive area that, you know, they could certainly move to different techniques that actually provide some habitat value and some ecological value, like a constructed stormwater wetland, and things of that nature. So
yes,
that they're,
yeah.
you know, the traditional approach is, there's no excuses anymore. I mean, the
Right.
green infrastructure is mainstream now. I'm sitting at a schoolyard right now looking right at a bioretention basin.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that there'll be additional costs involved, but I mean, if there ever is a place where it would be justified and warranted, it's at an ACEC, you know, if we don't
Yes.
require those more sustainable requirements, if we don't conditions there, then what's, you know, it just, so I'm hopeful that, yeah, the planning board might be willing to go forward on
Well,
that.
it'll be very interesting to compare the cost to some of the costs that they looked at to compress their, you know, to raise the number of floors or to do a structured parking garage. Those are the tunes of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
These strategies are not much, you know, nowhere near
yeah,
that
okay,
value.
all right,
Nowhere near that value.
yeah. Oh, I had another thought that I just lost. Oh, well, okay, it'll come back to me. Pat or Melissa. Oh, I know, the thing I wanted to mention is one of the things that came up at that meeting. And Melissa and Pat, you're probably both much more familiar with this than I was, because I have not looked at the maps that closely. I just don't really understand the footprint of the whole project or the area like you do. But what came out was that in the discussion yesterday, and it was news to me, was that they are building the hotel in the rear of the available property and then clearing all of the trees in front of it. And somebody made the suggestion, well, why can't they move the hotel more closer to the street? Am I getting this right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and not cut all of the trees in the back. So
Right.
that the trees behind the building would stay intact, which borders other, I think, undeveloped areas. And kind of a tangential issue, really not related to trees per se, is that it appears, and Melissa made this point, which I thought was quite interesting, is that it appears that what they're trying to do is to save the property in the front of on 104, which, because that's the most valuable to them. But Mr. What's his name? Carney was there last night and said, well, we have to cut all those trees down because if nobody sees the hotel from 104, they're not going to come. Which was really laughable, but anyway, and so, but it seems like probably what's going on is there's questions, and Nicole and Michael, part of the issue out there is whether they have exceeded their stormwater permits or will have with the construction of this hotel, and whether they will be limited from doing any further development in the future because they can't meet the water requirements. And the Bob Ruley at the town is basically saying they're not going to be able to. But it was really quite apparent that that's not the way they're seeing it. Mr. Carney said, oh, well, we can work with an on-site waste plan. And one person said that they told MIPA that they won't build anything else for more than 5 years. And then another person said 3 to 5 years. And so it's really, it seems like there's a lot of indefinite and fanciful thinking going on to be comfortable that they will never be able to do anything again, because I'm sure they're going to be back fighting for another building. But I thought the suggestion about moving it to the front, moving the building to the front and leaving the trees and back given that we are only looking at this project and should not be even considering additional buildings at this point under this site plan, was a really good one, and I hope that.
That's interesting. I didn't understand that part of it, so I think that's really helpful. So I think we start with the low impact idea that we only, we minimize what we do, and we only, we recommend that they only cut what they need to cut for this project and potentially reconsider how they're, what they need to do in order to build the hotel and where it goes. So that's like the first step. And then, obviously the second step would be trying to not have as sprawling of a footprint. And then the third step is when you know what you need to build and you're going to build and you're allowed to build, then do it in a sustainable manner.
Yeah.
So I think we could kind of go through the, our recommendations that way.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was just so much, so many different or failure to answer questions about, do you have intention of building something else? They would all say, oh, well, no, this is all we're building now, or, it was just, they were just so evasive. It's obvious that's, and Mr. Carney then, made sure that everybody knew that they weren't giving up any of their rights to build whatever, they wanted to in the future, so. I'm not comfortable that that'll be the last building. I'm sure none of the other of us who were there are either, but. So, okay, so Nicole, I'll send an email to the people we talked about who were, Greg Tansey, Michael, Bob Ruley, Shane, and was that it? Nicole, you're muted. That's okay. I think that was it, wasn't it?
That was it. Now, they didn't make any they just want to do this independently with the town so that they could potentially include it in their review letter?
No, no,
Okay.
they don't want to do this at all. No, this is all my idea. Well, no, it's Ray's idea, but then it was
Yes.
Ray said, the way Ray put it, and I listened to that today, but I wasn't exactly clear. I didn't get to the very end. I heard Ray's comments, but I didn't hear exactly how they were presenting it. I think it was just left with that Mr. Tansey would take a look at these options, that he would look at.
Oh,
the
I
letter.
see.
He would look at
Okay.
Nicole's letter, and he would look at, and he would take into consideration the comments and come back to the planning board at the next meeting, which is October.
It's the 18th.
October 18th, and comment on the suggestions that you made, Nicole.
Okay. Yep.
But I think what we need to do, and the reason that's what my thought immediately coming out of that meeting last night was like, we need to get together and go to them and show them what can be done in case he doesn't know. Or if he knows, he doesn't want to deal with it. The other comment that came up that I just really floored me was Shane O'Brien said, well, and if you do all of this cutting along 104, we want to make sure that it isn't a mess. You don't leave a bunch of tree stumps and that the citizens of Bridgewater are going to be going by and seeing, dirt. And what we need it graded and seeded and mowed and that was a replacement for the forest, that was just, and he said, as mitigation. I mean, a lawn is not mitigation for a forest. I mean, the lawn is contributing to the problems, not solving them. So I think that would be another thing if we can think about, Nicole, is in addition to, what other vegetation other than lawns, if they could do some sort of green plantings. I mean, there are places that are, that are looking into that, and actually doing it, and not just planting sod and a few ornamentals. So
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's tons of, research and information about, lawns generate runoff, generate pollution,
Yeah,
and so therefore there's a move to, more naturalized landscape like meadows, especially,
yeah,
or, different kinds of,
yeah,
planted areas with
yeah.
trees and yes, yes.
Yeah, and groupings of plantings, not isolated specimen trees, and just with a few arborvitae and the curbs cuts and stuff, it just so. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yep, yep.
all right, so, and then, after I talk with them or get some response from them, we can see like when you're available and when they're all available, et cetera. I am gonna be going out of town for, a first part of October, so I hope we can get something taken care of.
Oh, yeah,
then.
hopefully
But I don't
maybe
know,
next week.
that only leaves 1 week, so that's probably unlikely. All right, well, we'll have to figure something out. Okay. All right, so now, let's go back to the Community Preservation Committee report, which is not gonna happen because Maureen's not here. I'm continuing to just put these committees as a standing agenda item, even if there's not gonna be a report. Just because I figure they're committee members who are standing members on these, additional committees, like the tree committee, community preservation are both, committees where the open space committee has a seat. So I'm just leaving these on as standing items, even though we don't report. All right, chapter 61 properties adjacent to open space. Nicole, I don't know, you were on a meeting, I think, where we started discussing this, weren't you? All right, well, anyway,
Yes, I
Michael,
believe I was. Yep.
yeah, okay. Michael and Lauren, examined what they could on Biomap and I'm waiting for a list, from the two of them for like Michael had like what, 6 or 7 properties I think you looked at, and Lauren had about the same number, just statistics on each, the lot number, the owner, the acreage, maybe some reference to the biomap categorization of the value of the property. But in the meantime, Michael had identified one and that looked very promising at the end of South Street and had met all the biomap criteria, et cetera. And so I decided, I was trying to figure out how we move forward with this, and just decided to zero in on that property just because it looked promising. And I called Wildlands Trust, and Scott McFadden there is the director of land acquisition, I think, or something. But because I figure they do this all the time, that's what their business is looking for properties that are environmentally valuable and trying to acquire them. And I thought there's no point in us recreating the process here if they're already working on some of these. And in fact, they are. Scott has been talking to a couple of landowners at the end of South Street, like some of them on the Middleborough line and maybe on part of it on the Bridgewater line, north of the Bridgewater town line too. And I don't want to talk about who, because I think lots of times they like to keep that information confidential. But I was just, it was interesting to hear that they have been talking with some landowners there. And so Michael and I talked a little bit yesterday, and we think that we got to figure out some way of zeroing in on that area because it's so close to the Taunton River. And there are a couple of large properties. There is one owned by a Bridgewater landowner that I don't remember exactly what Scott said, whether he had talked to that person or not, but it just seems like we got to start putting some feelers out to people in that area to see what's potentially possible long-term to get preserved, because it's just such a critical area to the river and wildlife corridors. And so anyway, that's where we're gonna go with that, so. And of course, these are just to chapter 61 properties that are adjacent to other open space. We haven't looked at all the other 61 properties too, not that they're that many, because they're disappearing quickly, but some that aren't, adjacent to open space. And then I still haven't, followed through on some of the other landowners that I was gonna talk to, or not landowners, but, people who might know something about some of the other properties, and I need to do that. All right. Any questions on that? No, okay. All right. I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. Where am I? Okay, I'm back. So, parks information on the town website. We talked about this last time. And we had a member of the public, Janet Hansen, and also Maureen Manasian on our committee, who were both quite concerned about the fact that we still don't have anything pointing out where the 6 parklands are in Bridgewater. There's nothing on the Parks and Recreation website. If you go to Parks and Recreation and click on Parks, what comes up is Scotland Field and the golf course. So I sent an email this week, or last week, I guess, to Michael Dutton, Bob Ruley, and Jim Small, who's the director of Parks and Rec, who also has tried to get this information posted. And I think that's it. And just asked if something couldn't be done, that I asked somebody, I asked Josh about this a couple of years ago, I think. And he did finally get the links up on our website, the Open Space Committee website, to the 6 parklands. But he never, he wasn't successful in getting anything on the Parks and Rec. So Michael Dutton said that they're doing some work on the website next week, and hopefully that'll get done. So we'll see. Nicole, the other thing that came up at the meeting last night, I just looked at the Lake Nip agenda item again. Bob Ruley has made the point a number of times that a lot of the issues that are coming up at the planning board are really Conservation Commission jurisdiction. And so that's, once the planning board is done, the project will be heard by the Conservation Commission. But Bob seems to be saying they're the ones that are gonna have to rule on the stormwater issues and the streams and most of the water related issues. So at some point.
Yeah, I understand that, but I also think that the footprint is driving that, and that I think is totally within the planning board purview. The sprawl, the lack of low impact. So I think that, we need to start there.
Yeah, that's a
Maybe
great point.
explain why it, leads to those stormwater management challenges.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, good, perfectly logical. All right. I think that's it. Anybody have any additional items for discussion, or yeah, Melissa?
I have it's kind of related, kind of unrelated, but hearing you talk, Nicole, about the green options was really interesting. And all I kept thinking was, oh, I wish there was like a public forum to learn this information. And has Open Space thought of doing, I mean, even like video, like taped webinars, or I don't know, something related to these kinds of really important topics, and I don't know, maybe even in partnership with Concom or, but I don't know, it's just really interesting. And I know it's also a lot of effort, and it just struck me hearing you talk about these options that it's just really, it's very interesting, it's very timely, and it certainly gets the word out to residents, what the options are. And if something comes to their neighborhood, right, that these are options that can be looked into. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's a great thought. It'd be great if, yeah, it would be a great thing to do. And I think it would be especially good to do one for the planning board and the conservation commission.
Yeah.
And maybe even the town council. And that, I'm trying to remember the organization, the state group, the nonprofit group that has that seminar every year on open space. And I know they have some really good presentations online, and they might even have one. I think it's Mass Land. Anyway, I'll
Oh,
find
yeah,
out.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe even linking out to some of them would be good. But
Yeah.
it sounds like from what you're saying, the town's website's not very flexible with adding links and stuff. Do you have to go through?
Yes, right, you have to go through the IT people, and apparently
Okay.
that's where it gets hung up, yeah. Yeah, but what I was thinking, Melissa, is that we could present, we could do a seminar where we don't have to come up with all the materials, and it might be just doing this canned presentation from Mass Land Conservation. Because they really were, they had some good things. I don't remember what the topics were now, but at the time I thought, oh yeah, we have to do that one, because they kind of put it all together for you, the backup materials and the slides and everything. So they may have one on sustainable landscaping and water management and stuff like that. So that would be worth looking into. I'll write myself a note.
Yeah, and I also have I mean, that's what I do for
You
a
do,
living.
yes,
and what
right.
my
We don't
company
need that.
specializes in. Well, yeah, so I would be happy to help host or, try to organize a panel at some point and invite, some connections that I have with, other other professionals that I work with, like landscape architects, and obviously I'm a civil engineer, and those types of systems kind of take different different professions working together.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So, it's interesting to hear all the perspectives, because they're solving stormwater problems, but they're also addressing, so many other issues like air
Right.
quality and providing habitat and, cooling heat islands. So there's, more to it. There's so much more benefit to managing stormwater using these strategies than, just the conventional catch basins and detention basins.
Yeah.
And, we're going to be in collaboration with tree committee too. We're going to be looking for more opportunities to kind of do outreach to the community and the schools, as part of Arbor Day. But I think all of
Oh,
these things
yeah.
are so related that maybe the open space committee would be interested in helping, right? And, there's going to be so much work that we're all trying to do that maybe we could help organize, some sort of
Yeah.
seminar on behalf of, that's sponsored by the open space committee, at the library or wherever.
Right, yeah.
And I think the high school does have, I'm not sure how active it is every year, but I know that they have some sort of conservation-minded group for the students to be part of.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know who's involved in it, but I had heard something about that when my daughter was at school. Yeah.
It's called the Yes Club.
Oh, thanks, Pat.
Yeah, it's YESS.
Oh,
Youth Environmental something.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm laughing because I'm hoping we can get Larry Silva to attend.
Oh. Well, the reason I'm able to do the type of projects I do is because, I have a client base that has a, vested interest in the long-term commitment of their, properties, like universities and, so we
Yeah.
work for different people, and I think it's a little easier for, Harvard University and MIT to do green infrastructure. Not
Yeah,
defending it, but just
unlike-
defending it a little bit. Yeah.
Unlike, yeah, I mean, like the NIP project, you know, they get the plans and then they create the building and they sell it off, you know, so
Yes.
they're not in it for the long term.
No,
They're just in it
they
for
don't
the
have a
short term.
long-term interest. They just
Right.
want, you know, when you want to just get your permit immediately,
Yep.
that's very different than somebody that cares about like the resilience, you know, of their lands and has, you know, students and people living there that care about it.
Yeah.
Although, you know, to be honest, the hotel industry is very, you know, you see that all the time about be sustainable, don't, you
Yeah.
know, throw your towels on the ground,
Water, right, water,
Right.
save water,
Yeah.
you know.
a lot of water.
Lot of
That's the one time
greenwashing.
I don't that's the one time I'm selfish and not ecologically sensitive is when I'm actually on vacation because all I do in my life is laundry. So I like joyfully throw those towels on the ground and that's the only day of my life I'm not environmentally conscientious.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Our next meeting is, oh. Oh, what happened? I thought I had that on, I always put that on the agenda, but I didn't this time. Or either that or it got dropped off. It's October. Is it, I think it's the,
19th?
is that the third Thursday?
Yeah, because this meeting's always the day after the planning board, right? So that's the
Yeah.
18th, so you're the
Yeah,
19th.
the 19th, yes, that's right. All right. And, all right. Thank you for attending, Melissa and Pat. And thank you, Michael and Nicole, for being here and achieving a quorum.
Thank
So,
you.
all right, Nicole, I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Alrighty, bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.